Welcome one, welcome all back to the Control Your Epps-perience podcast. I am your host, the namesake Alan Epps, hoping you guys were able to control your experience over that week hiatus I gave y'all. It was the holiday, and I didn't really go into the holiday with a plan to not record, but at the same time, it just seemed right just because it was a holiday and I had a lot going on, not just with myself, but with friends and family. My holiday was great, in case y'all were wondering. Got to eat, see some limited amount of family. We didn't do it big like we do every year, trying to be somewhat responsible with COVID. But even then, just reminded of everything we have to be thankful for, but regardless of the origins of the holiday, but of the very real problems going on in this world. A lady by the name of Sherry Stephenson, I consider her my aunt. She's not my blood aunt, but she is the mother of my blood cousin, if that makes any sense. She has been sick for years, multiple sclerosis, and ultimately she passed away right before the Thanksgiving holiday. And on the one hand, she was in her prime. She was an athlete, a lifeguard, somebody who took the utmost pride in their body, just being fit and active. And then to watch a disease like MS basically force her body to betray her, it was just hard to know that she was going through that. And but the poise and grace of black women, she never cracked, like, ever. Like, I was never in her head, but just to see her, she never let it chink her dignity. But it's painful, man, like that. There's just constant pain all day, every day, and she ultimately passed away this past week, well, right before Thanksgiving. So prayers and condolences out to my cousin, DeJavani, DJ, if you know her. My Uncle Joe, that was the mother of his only child. I'm just glad that, her family, her mother is still alive, her brother, she leaves behind two brothers. I don't know if Booby's still alive, but two brothers, because he was sick as well. Yeah. But other than that, I got to kick it with my niece, my sister. Man, good time, but my mind and heart wasn't really into potting last week. And honestly, it was a slow week. I had done a list, and I only had like 3 or 4 topics that I honestly don't think any of you cared about. And I don't know if that's just a result of my priorities being elsewhere, or just not being on Facebook because I'm in jail, and keeping my ear to the ground as to what's going on. But I do have some stuff to talk about. I don't really plan on making this a long, drawn out one. First and foremost, what's going on in the world. So, the threat of another shutdown is looming. The second wave is here with a vengeance. And on top of that, of course, Biden winning the election, set to take over in January. And his whole thing was he wants to put the virus to rest. So he hasn't outright said that he's going to force mandate lockdowns and everything, but he is pro doing whatever needs to happen. So with that, the economy is already struggling. Small businesses are failing and often not going to come back. People are really worrying about where their next check, where their next meal is coming from. So the pressure for Congress to pass another COVID relief bill, stimulus package, has been there for months, but we haven't gotten it. Well, something just got passed yesterday, I want to say, or it might have been today. Today's the 6th, Sunday, but it does not involve another $1,200 payment to the American people. It is a $900 billion. Hold on, let me look. Yeah, $908 billion package, but it does not include any sort of direct payments to citizens. And initially last week, what I was going to report on, but I decided not to do the pod, was how they were debating and infighting as far as what was going to happen. Of course, you have your typical Republican versus Democrat, while we're not going to do this and then the third, but there was also progressive Democrat versus the centrist liberal Democrats going on. So let me break that down for you. The first crazy thing that happened was that Secretary of the Treasury Mnuchin, I think that's how you say his name, Mnuchin, it's M-N Mnuchin. He moved a discretionary fund, basically a relief fund, where basically the president could, executive order, just mandate that this money be sent wherever he deemed it necessary. But he moved it back to the Treasury's general fund. So the money's still there, but the problem is that when it's in the general fund, it cannot be accessed without congressional approval, meaning it has to go to wait for another congressional setting, has to be put to a vote and approved by the Senate before it can be dispersed. And this was heralded as a blatant attempt to sabotage Joe Biden and hamstring any ability he has to hit the ground running when he comes in, which we've seen already with them not wanting to give him briefings, and Trump's to this day still saying that he won the election and not conceding. So this was railed as that, and I mean, it's really hard to characterize it as anything else. That money was just sitting there, but Mnuchin is Trump's guy, so that makes sense. And then that brought into question where they were with the progress of this bill. And of course, the core dispute was the numbers and what was going to get paid out to the American people. The Republican camp did not want another specific payment, like $1,200 payment going to the American people, because in their mind, this is a relief package and not a stimulus package. So they want to focus on, I guess, businesses and stuff like that. Whereas the Democrats want it to include another $1,200 payment. At least that's the part. Obviously, I'm not in it, but that's what I gather from reading. However, within that argument itself, you have the Democratic Party saying yes, $1,200 payment, but there are members within the Democratic Party who are still pushing back. Where even if with a $1,200 payment, the Republicans are trying to push for a clause for indemnification for corporations or companies, where they can force you to go back to work, or they don't have to have any responsibility ensuring that the workplace environment is as preventative of catching COVID as possible. Basically making it so that you can't sue them or hold them responsible for forcing you to come to work in conditions right to catch COVID-19. And the Republicans want that language into the bill. The progressive Democrats say that no, we're not signing off on that. And then you have some of the more moderate Democrats saying that, when I say progressive, I mean specifically AOC and Bernie Sanders are saying no, that's a non-starter. We will not support this bill. But then you've got members of the more centrist Democratic Party are saying that Bernie Sanders they're overplaying the language, that it's not giving the corporations a carte blanche. So it's almost saying that, the progressive Party of the Democratic Party is also holding this up, which we've already seen up to this point, where even as Joe Biden first mounted his come behind win, you had Democratic high-ranking officials attempting to immediately throw AOC and the progressive wing under the bus, saying that, they lost seats in the House because those people, their constituents wouldn't vote for them because they feared that the Democratic Party was becoming too radical. So even though AOC won hers, it made it hard for other Democratic candidates to maintain their districts because their voters do not like socialism and stuff like that. So they held them responsible for it, which is bullshit and a deflection. It's just another tactic for the Democratic mainstream to try to push in and put the actual progressive voices in it. But that's neither here nor there. Y'all gonna have to figure that out on your own. I think I talked about it a pod or two ago. So there's triple infighting, but what it boils down to is this package will not include any kind of direct payments to citizens. What it does do is it increases it maintains a $300 unemployment benefit a month, I believe it is. And hold on, let me look. The CARES Act passed back in March gave $600 per week for unemployment, and on top of the unusual unemployment check. It lapsed in July, and then Trump set it to a $300 a week bonus. The money will run out by December 31st. With this new bill, he says it will provide $300 a week in additional federal unemployment benefits for 4 months. So taking you to April. Up to May, but through April. It also is extending payroll protection program. So basically allowing for businesses to get 0 to low interest loans to keep paying their workers, regardless of their income and profits and stuff like that. And renewal of renter protections from evictions. So people who can't pay their rent, they have frozen and put a moratorium on eviction proceedings. So that's going to get extended. And that is the funding. But they've also bootstrapped this to several other initiatives in the bill for the funding. So funding for healthcare and coronavirus vaccination. So that's coming down the pipe. Where the conspiracy theorists are saying, well, to get your benefits, you have to agree to get the vaccine. No, I haven't seen any language to that effect, and honestly, that's not enforceable. I don't think the government can enforce a vaccine anywhere else but going to school, going to the military, or working for the government buildings, stuff like that. But the average citizen, no. Like saying that you have to have a vaccine before you're allowed in the airport, no, it's unconstitutional. They can't even enforce it now for people who don't want to take their measles. So I don't know how you think they're going to enforce it legally anyway for COVID-19. But whatever. But the major sticking point is that Republican legislators have supported limiting COVID-19 liability, meaning it's designed to curtail lawsuits against businesses, schools, hospitals, and other organizations from people who said these institutions caused them to acquire coronavirus, except in instances of gross negligence, which, that in and of itself, burden of proof is on the victim. All right. They've also looped in some money in schools, money for schools and childcare to state and local governments. But the soonest that we could even hope to get another stimulus check won't be till 2021, until another session of Congress. But they've also tied this to the budget because Congress will shut down after the 11th if they don't pass this. So don't hold your breath, but that's what got passed. And yeah, you can see even when on the 20th when Biden comes in, he doesn't have that money immediately available to him. So if he wanted to send out a check right away, he couldn't. So you got to wait till another session of Congress. To highlight the fact that there's so much infighting, not just Democrat, Republican, but the Democrats are, actively trying to quell the progressive way, or frame them in such a way as they're the upstarts, the mainstream, moderate, centrist Democratic Party is trying to move forward, but there are those among us who are making it hard. Whatever. Right now is the right, and I'm gonna make a specific video about the third party because there's nuance in it that I don't want to take up the majority of this pod going into. But right now is the time. It's never been riper for a progressive third party to form. That's it. Okay. The fact of the matter is that with the Biden and Kamala Harris presidency for the next 4 to 8 years, depending on how Biden's health, and assuming that if they do a semi-competent job over the last idiot, that the incumbent vice president will be the one to run for president. So anywhere from 4 to 16 years, you've got centrists in the White House, stifling and doing the same thing what they're doing to progressive voices right now. So they have nothing to lose. Okay, you've got the platform. You have a president in Congress. Start your own party and start poaching the actual progressive votes that have nowhere else to go but to vote for the Democratic mainstream. Okay, because while you're doing that to the Democratic Party, who has the House and the presidency, so what harm is really going to happen? The Republican Party still has a schism that they had hoped that Donald Trump would just disappear, but like herpes, he ain't going fucking nowhere. He's already holding the Republican Party hostage because they're trying to win these last 2 Senate seats, which are critical to the Republican Party. Because if the Democrats pick up both of them, then there's a even 50-50 split in the Senate, and then Kamala Harris becomes the tiebreaker as the vice president. So, in theory, if all the Democratic senators, which I'm not sure, well, you've got Bernie Sanders, so he mostly votes Democrat, but he's not a guarantee, and I'm sure there's some other either independent or more progressive-minded than centrist-minded senators. The Democrats absolutely need these 2 seats. So the Republicans the Republican Party knows that, but Trump is all about Trump. Trump making it seem like even if he doesn't end up conceding this, he's going to try and get back in 4 years. For what? I don't fucking know. But the point is, until Donald Trump dies, the Republicans have a problem on their hands. And that is a time that is ripe with opportunity for a progressive third party. Because I won't say most, but many of Republican voters are single-issue voters. They vote for things that are core to them, and they don't care. Everything else will sort themselves out. One of the main ones is guns. Okay? There are people who will vote for the Second Amendment because they figure if anything else goes to hell with their rights and shit, at least they got the gun to defend themselves or whatever. You've got people who vote like that for abortion, the Jesus-y crowd, whatever. You got people like that who vote for their tax bracket, the richer. But there are single-party voters all through who figure that I can vote for this, and everything else will figure it out as long as this core belief does not bother. And the Republicans cater to that. If you take the gun lobby, or at least fracture that from them, and I know it's a novel idea that a progressive party that is still in support of the Second Amendment. Because when you say pro-Second Amendment, it paints a picture of these, from my cold dead hand, racist white people who just are masking about the Second Amendment, but they want the ability to be Kyle Rittenhouses. They want the ability to terrorize, and threaten the government. But that's not all that the Second Amendment is about. And for those of you who are progressives, are liberals, who were anti-gun up until now, who bought your first gun, and you might still be anti-gun, you just feel so desperate that you had to go get a gun. Well, it's not going to matter if they're outlawed, or if they continue rolling back of the rights happens, because that's what is happening. I am not one of these Jethros out here who's doing militia movements in the woods, but it is plain as day as to how they are incrementally banning this, making it hard for that, making it too expensive for that, because the goal is to make it too expensive for manufacturers to make weapons for civilians, too expensive and much of a hassle for civilians to own their own weapons, and then you're limiting what they can own until one day, even though the stuff that you banned already, another weapon is used. Oh, well, now your daddy's deer rifle, which they say is not a problem, is a tactical sniper scope capable of killing a man from a mile away. That only belongs in war. And now your daddy's deer rifle is illegal. So that's how it happens. It's step by step by step, but that's a whole other conversation. The point is, if you can have progressives who do what they say, that they want common sense gun control, which doesn't exist, but you take these progressive people who rely on experts, just like they call for experts for climate control, they call for experts for the Green New Deal, all that stuff. Experts, and not only in guns, but in how they relate to crime, to draft laws. There are a good number of gun owners who are pro-2A who will support that legislation. It's just that right now, just like there are people who do not like the Democratic Party who are forced to vote Democrat because the other option was Agent Orange. There are people who are forced to be pro-gun and sound like they talk just like these idiots out here who show up, open carrying and stuff like that, when in actuality we do not feel safe because laws are just paper, and as minorities we are outnumbered. We want to be able to protect ourselves if and when this shit happens. Okay? But if you can make a law that will concrete have an impact on what actual crimes are happening, then there will be support. But following the blueprint of every other country on earth that has actually banned weapons, countries like New Zealand, Australia, England, and not just the countries that were taken over by dictators like Germany and Russia, but these so-called friendly Western nations who are evolved and civilized, but they have a ban now with the same legislation and same policy that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have announced. This is where they got it from. There's nothing original under that. So if you have a progressive party say, hey, we are pro Second Amendment, we just need some sense, but we're going to invite actual gun experts to come and make the laws. Laws have to be made, or we need to tweak existing laws, but they will be made based on the science and the data, and with the CDC, which up to this point the NRA has blocked, but we're not beholden to the NRA, but we are still interested in protecting the Second Amendment and having brown voices being protected by the Second Amendment. So people like Philando Castile and others like him are afforded the same benefits as a Kyle Rittenhouse in their support of the Second Amendment crowd. And now you've stolen, because the gun lobby is the second largest lobby in America, right behind Big Pharma. Yeah. Big Pharma, I believe the gun lobby, and Big Oil. So they're top three. If you can splinter that, and then you get these people who are voting for their guns, but against all their other interests, like their health care, now you're on a progressive party. Hell, in addition to us not trying to take your gun, not even not trying to take your gun, because that's not enough. We're trying to preserve your guns, but with in this light. Oh, by the way, if you come over here, you can get health care. You can get money for school. We can increase your minimum wage. You start talking to people who up till now have voted against their right, their interests, either because they're bound to their one single issue or because they're racist idiots and they don't know any better. But because you've spoken to their one core issue, now they're actually listening. Oh, wow, I'm an idiot. Maybe I should vote progressive now. And yeah, you won't be viable for 4 years, 8 years at the earliest, but you weren't anyway because the centrists are going to hold the White House. You're playing the long ball. But if we keep doing what we've been doing, rah, 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 and then the Democrats are pushing you to the side, and when it's convenient, they say, yes, AOC and Bernie did this, but when it's not, oh, they're not really Democrats, they're socialists. We're going to be right back here again, choosing from the lesser of two evils in 4 to 8 years. That's and 16 years. And the Republicans, I don't think they're going to stand stagnant, but they fractured themselves because, like I said, Trump ain't going nowhere until he dies. And you've got people who are more loyal to Trump than to the Republican Party. And that's why the Republicans haven't just outright cast him to the side, because they need his supporters in Georgia. So they've been coddling him, letting him say what he wants. You know, that's why these Republican senators and congressmen aren't coming on record saying that, yes, he needs to step down, he needs to start doing a transition, because they do not want to bruise this man's ego to the point where he will abandon or not even just abandon, because they'll take that if he would just shut up, actively call against his supporters voting in Georgia. That would be disastrous to the Republican Party and their presence in the Senate. So right now, while both the Democratic Party is distracted and being hamstringed by the Republicans, and the Republicans are fractured, there is an opportunity here to take voters from both and form a legitimate third party that may not be, you know, immediately solvent and viable for the next presidential or senator cycle, but it encourages growth. So by the time that their time is, they are a force to be reckoned with, and not just a random Tea Party who might get a senator or two, a congressman or two, and 2% of the general election vote. Now is the time. But I'll do a specific video about that. It's just crazy how I wish Bernie would do it, because Bernie has nothing to gain by staying a Democrat. He's old. He's never going to be the president. This could be his legacy. Whatever. But yeah, and then going into there, you know, we still dealing with the issues that we were dealing before the election, the issues of defunding the police, police brutality, and everything like that. And Obama, who's become more vocal as of late in his sole push to get Biden elected, well, now that that's done, he's popped up as a voice to kind of, you know, and some people, if you're being, I don't want to say objective, if you're shooting him the benefit of the doubt, you're looking at him, hey, I sympathize with you, but I want your message to be effective, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it sounds good. It matters if something happens. And other people are saying that he's being elevated for the sole purpose of squashing the the young progressive voices. And I saw a series of tweets. Let me see, because I know I downloaded it. I saw a series of tweets that I thought were very poignant, where people were responding to Barack Obama's comments with regards to what he characterized as a slogan for defunding the police, instead of what Representative Ilhan Omar responded to him on Twitter and said it's not a slogan, it's a call for policy. So where's Obama's tweets? Did I not? I always do this. Well, yeah, that's basically what he said. He said you're not going to win anybody over with a inflammatory, snappy phrase like that, slogan. You need to speak to people's sensibilities and get them to the table. At which point, several people responded on Twitter. Jamal Bowman, not exactly sure who that is, but he's got a check mark. He said, "You're talking about slogans, but didn't you say Trayvon could have been my son? In 2014, Black Lives Matter was too much. That has how we spent so much time explaining why Black Lives Matter didn't mean white lives didn't matter, or that we mattered more. It was two. And we had to explain that. In 2016, Kaepernick's knee was too much. Today, discussing police budgets is too much. The problem is America's comfort with Black Death, not discomfort with slogans." That's a bar. Hold on. Let me, yeah. We're going to need gunshots to school. There we go. Alright. So, some dude named Bess, he's just on Twitter, "Abolish slavery." This is just in quotes. 18th century centrists. "Bro, I agree with you, but white supremacists will use it against you. It's bad optics." That's literally what it is. Like, there's a drawing, wow, this is disrespectful, where it's a drawing of Frederick Douglass, and there's a quote bubble coming out of him. "Power concedes nothing without a demand," which is true. It basically means that if you are in power, you're not going to give up, or you're not going to acknowledge anybody until they demand it and make it something that you have to take notice of. They're not just, nobody, there was another quote, not here, that says, "Nobody ever got their freedom by appealing to the humanity of their oppressors." So that, it basically means the same thing. You must make a demand. But then there's a caricature of a sneering Barack Obama, making him look like a weasel, bushy eyebrows, big teeth, all that. Couple notes on your phrasing. You lose a big audience with the minute you say demand. Just spitballing, but how about power concedes nothing without a suggestion offered in the gentlest spirit of compromise? That change we can believe in will emerge over the course of multiple generations because yes, we can. So basically, they said you ain't gonna get nowhere. Just use all my phrases that I got elected with. Chris underscore Sacto on Twitter. The left uses facts to criticize Biden's picks. Liberals attack us with name-calling and false claims of racism, sexism, and bigotry. And that's important to note because before the left and liberals were the same thing, right? But the left is the side called toxic. Almost like silence is the only acceptable reaction to how the Democrats will govern. Just shut up and take it. Which is what a lot of people, including myself, feel like. And that's basically what they do anytime that the squad or AOC or Bernie gets inconvenient. They call them, short-sighted and saying that they're being detrimental to the conversation, that they're alienating people. So, yeah, on the one hand, it seems that Obama's being pragmatic because that is true. You push people off, but at the same time, it's like, how long are we supposed to coddle their feelings? How long are we supposed to make them feel comfortable? Because we've never been comfortable. Yeah. So I don't think it's about, obviously, you can kind of tell where I'm at with it. It's not a slogan, it's a demand. And instead of trying to make them feel comfortable, because there's no amount of comfort you're going to make them, they're going to try and make this say, well, we need training. Okay. Well, defunding will allow for that because it's going to move funds that you were spending on, armored vehicles and all kinds of other bullshit and put that into training and outreach and stuff. All the stuff that you've been spending on elsewhere will be redirected to where it needs to be. But when you hear defunding, that just means take all money. They're trying to characterize it as taking all money from cops everywhere. And, there are people who want to abolish the police, but that doesn't mean that once the police are gone, don't put anybody there. It's just a new entity. What that entity will look like, be called, who knows? But people don't even want to have that conversation because they framed it a certain way. And Obama's stance, if you give them the benefit of the doubt, is we've allowed them to do that to characterize what we mean as something else because our slogan was too inflammatory. So, I mean, there's merit to his argument, but at the same time, it's like, why are you putting the onus on the people who are aggrieved? You could have put that same influence and that weight in that pulpit that you own and saying that and help with clarifying the ideal and be the bridge of the middle ground instead of wagging your finger about, again, the progressive left. Because the progressive left is not the one shooting black people in the street. My 2 cents. But in the same week, Obama joined forces with George W. Bush and Bill Clinton to say that they will be getting the vaccine. They've committed to getting it once it becomes available. Now, if I were in a higher risk group, I would be more open to taking the vaccine just because the gain is qualified by the risk. But as such, I'm in a very low risk group because I am actually, for the most part, quarantining. I do go out. I'm not a total hermit, but I limit my exposure. I wear my mask. I don't go around people who I see on the Instagram stories out here partying up and whatnot. And I stay in the house. So I'm in the low risk group just because of my exposure. I'm in the low risk group because of my age and health, as far as developing complications and everything like that. But if I was higher, if I had some kind of autoimmune disease, I would be more inclined. Still don't know if I absolutely would, but more inclined to take the vaccine. But as it stands, that I still feel that, even then, I would still feel that the vaccine was rushed. And I've talked to black medical professionals who I trust, their intentions, because they're not getting a bag off of this, saying that they have faith in the vaccine. But the fact of the matter is this vaccine was pushed through warp speed. I'm frankly just going to let the white people take it and see what it does to them. Because, yes, while I am extending the idea that this vaccine was developed in good faith with no ill intentions, subterfuge or anything like that. Best case scenario, it could be flawed scientifically, and worst case scenario, it could be flawed intentionally. Let the white people do it because they've tested on us long enough. That's just how I feel. I'm not telling anybody not to take it, but what I'm saying is, if you're not going to take it, don't just go down because of some hotep on the internet told you to. Like, I don't want to say do your research because that's what they say. Make a calculated decision, weigh out the pros and the cons, and move forward and be adaptive because the situation will change. So your stance needs to be adaptive. Don't just, oh, I said it this today and this is what it is. All right. Best case scenario, it does prove effective and more importantly non-problematic to your health. Yeah, I'll take it. But I just like I take my other vaccines, but with the exception of the flu vaccine because I have an adverse reaction to it. That's why I don't take the flu vaccine. But it is what it is. What's next? So we talked about let's get into. I can't even say 0 day. I mean, there's always 0 days without white nonsense, but this one is some Latino nonsense. So there was video that went viral of a high school football game where it was like their last game, and it was a playoff game. No, it was a playoff game, and the ref flagged one of the defensive ends on the winning team, and not only flagged him for unsportsmanlike conduct, but kicked him out of the game. I didn't see the clip of actually what he did to get the flag, but you saw the whole. It picks up where the play is broken, the referee's doing his calls and says he's been disqualified. And then they're going, the team that's losing claps, and it looks like they're going to go get reset, and the head judge is about to go take his position behind the line of scrimmage, when out of nowhere, the defensive end that got ejected just blindsides this dude and wrecks him, levels him. And the crazy part is, he's a big boy. Like he's 5'11", I think he was 5'11", 230 or something like that. But he's a wide boy. And he just wrecked that referee. And it looked like his teammates were trying to catch up and they just didn't get to him. And then a coach ran out there. And he was escorted off the field. So again, never found out what he actually did. But come to find out a few days later, he's been arrested and charged with assault. And on top of that, the team who won the game, his team, had to forfeit and was disqualified from the rest of the playoffs. So that's insane. Obviously, that's terrible that he did that. And then, of course, you don't know what's real anymore. People on the internet say, "Oh, he was a star football player. He'll never play football again." Like from what I understand, he didn't have any D1, D2, or even D3 offers. So this was very likely his last organized football game anyway. But that's besides the point. You wonder why he did it. He could just be a whole entitled cunt. His parents give him everything he wants. He don't know how to deal with things not going his way. He could be an abuse victim who lashes out. He could be on the roids, which that was kind of my first initial reaction was, oh man, he gotta have roid rage, but he don't even look all that swole. He's just wide and big, but who knows? But the ref, I hope he's all right because he got. I mean, he should be all right. Probably sore though, but he got wrecked. But yeah, you should watch it because that was some offensive linebacker shit on the internet. So Grandmaster Jay, I hate that I call him that, but I don't care enough to learn his real name. But if you've heard of that name, it's not Jam Master Jay, it's Grandmaster Jay. He is the leader of the NFAC, the Not Fucking Around Coalition, basically the black militia that has been showing up counter-protesting. I think they were in Louisville at one point. Yeah, they've been in the news basically all summer and up till now. Well, he got arrested this past weekend, and it stems from an incident back in Louisville the day before the Kentucky Derby. But before we get into what he specifically got arrested for, you'll recall that two people in his group had a negligent discharge, meaning that they were carrying a weapon, and then the rifle went off and injured someone. Which negligent discharges happen to the best of the best, from Navy SEALs down to brand new gun owners. Okay, that doesn't mean that there's nothing you can do about it, but nobody's immune to it. Is the point where I'm getting at. So that in itself, at least the first time, I was like, oh man, that's unfortunate. And yeah, it speaks to the level of training and organization, but at the same time, as I said, highly trained operators have negligent discharges. But my issue with Grandmaster Jay started when he went on YouTube, I want to say the next day or the day or two later, to address the negligent discharge, where he basically held his rifle up and said that these rifles can go off by merely banging them on the ground, which is not the case. AR platform rifles, when you sit them down on the ground, what you can do is force the bolt forward. But if there is a round already in the chamber, or there wasn't, if there's a round already in the chamber, the bolt will come forward, but the pin, and I don't feel like taking my AR apart to show you the pin, but think of the bolt as like a cylinder, and the firing pin is in the middle. And when you pull the trigger, the firing pin comes forward. But when you pull the charging handle or the bolt handle, the bolt moves back and forth, thereby grabbing rounds, putting them in the chamber, and ejecting them. But a trigger pull is what it's going to take to push that firing pin forward. And Grandmaster Jay said that by slamming the rifle down, that will cause a round to go off, which every other gun channel online proceeded to do the exact thing that he did with the round in the chamber, because Grandmaster Jay did not put a round in the chamber because he said he didn't want it to go through his roof when he did it. But there's tons of videos on the internet, I'm not going to recreate it, where you can take an AR platform rifle in any caliber, put a round in the chamber with the bolt back, or put a magazine in there with the empty chamber and the bolt, and slam it down. The bolt will come forward, but no boom, because that's not how the rifle works. So, of course, the gun community has been railing on him. And that was my issue with him, because at the end of the day, just like I don't want politicians who know nothing about guns or gun violence making these laws, I don't want people who will not do the due diligence to get properly trained and acquainted with their weapon, not only open carrying and demonstrating, but being the face of black gun ownership, because they're incompetent. And while I commend him for organizing and being the guy to say, I'm going to lead us, he probably does not need to be leading anyone. He even went on to say in his video that, it happens hundreds of times, it happens every day in basic training, where troops shoot themselves because the gun went off. The weapon would not be in service if that happened. And it's not an AR-15, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so that was my impression of him, and I purposely didn't really speak on them because I didn't want to be the guy tearing down the black people who were actually advocating for their guns and everything like that. But now he's been arrested, and they didn't say what the exact charge was, but they did detail the incident. So basically, while he was at the demonstration for Kentucky, he observed some persons on a raised platform, I believe it was a parking garage, looking down on him. And he used the light on the end of his rifle on the end of his rifle to point up and shine light up there to see who was doing what and what was going on, I guess, for situational awareness at the very least, or maybe perhaps he thought that police or other agitators, militia, were trying to get a strategic or advantageous firing position on him, which is not out of the realm of possibility, because I remember when the Louisville thing was happening, they did find some random idiots impersonating police, but up on the roof of parking structures with their rifles, talking about they're keeping overwatch of the black militia. But they were just random idiots pointing guns down at them. And they got dispersed because, yeah, you're watching them with your scope, but your scope is attached to a rifle. So you are pointing a rifle at people. Okay? But they weren't arrested. They were just forced to leave the rooftop. But now they are charging, months after the fact, they are charging Grandmaster Jay and they arrested him for shining the light up there, and evidently it was police. And my thing is, this can go a bunch of ways. It really just going to come down to his lawyer. But again, even though we on paper have the same rights as white, we cannot do the same things that they do without being on our P's and Q's. There's videos online of groups where white people walk through a town with a rifle, open carry, and then that same rifle is given to one of their black friends, and within minutes of the video, police swarm them. Okay, we've seen it with Philando Castile, what being black and armed is. So knowing that, if you're still going to go demonstrate, I commend you for the courage, but you still have to have your shit together. There's no room for fucking error. Negligent discharges and not knowing the laws of where you're at. And just common sense, which unfortunately is not that common. So you should know that when you have a light on your rifle, yes, it is good. You need to find out who's up there, because possibly somebody can be up there to take a pot shot at you. But you're not pointing a gun. Just because there's a rifle on it does not mean that you get away with, I'm just shining my light. Because whoever you're shining at doesn't know that. And for those of you who don't know, the statute's vary state by state, but brandishing is when you show your weapon unnecessarily or in a menacing manner. In some places, it's just written up as a part of the assault code. Just for pointing the weapon. And of course, the news stories all said that the police felt that they were in danger of their lives because they were having a gun pointed at them. And they weren't sure that if the perpetrator, Mr. J, would shoot them either intentionally or even unintentionally. And of course, that was a shot at them and the NFAC for their negligent discharges. But again, this was months ago, and they just now arrested him, which shows you that the spirit and intent, they are just after him because he put a bullseye on his back, nobly or otherwise. But you got to have your shit together. So all the more reason for gun owners, new and old, especially my black ones, get out there, get familiar with weapons, know what you're talking about, and if you don't, go get some training. Ask somebody who knows, not just a guy who you think knows more than you. Somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing. So I think he can get off just because it was a distance, and he has a right to look at who's looking at him. And if they didn't arrest the white boys, why are you arresting him? But at the same time, it's like if the brandishing code is what it is, you pointed a gun. That's why when I was carrying a weapon on my person, I carried a little flashlight and I carried pepper spray so that I had a less than lethal option to respond to a threat. And I could, if I'm ever at night, I can use my light, even though I have a light on my gun, I can flash my light at people without pointing a gun at them. For that reason, because brandishing is brandishing. You don't get to use your gun as a flashlight. The light is to aid the gun, not the other way around. So keep that in mind, those of you who are armed, concealed carried, or yeah. So we'll see. Again, they're doing this on purpose to discredit the NFAC specifically and black gun owners by proxy. So just have you guys shit together. There was also a couple arrested in Hawaii because they boarded a flight with COVID. I believe they were Latino as well. They were coming out of Texas, San Antonio, I believe, and they made it over to Hawaii, where going to Hawaii, you have to quarantine for X amount of time, period. But it was proven that they had gotten diagnosed a few days later, and they still got on that plane anyway, positive. So they got arrested and charged, and their kids got taken into protective custody for that shit. So, man, we're never gonna get outside again. People just don't know how to fucking act. Common decency, and it pisses me off because one of my close personal friends just lost her mother because people don't want to take this shit seriously. And you can imagine how she feels going online, seeing people still protesting about this shit, a whole state protesting, and now you're the hardest hit state in America, North and South Dakota, but you guys were so anti-mask this. And you just sit there and wonder why couldn't COVID take you idiots instead of somebody's mom who was doing what she was supposed to do. But that sucks. Shout out Jamie. I'm not gonna say her last name, but she's in our hearts and prayers. All right. Well, so let's get into our nonsense. So, ladies, and I want to get a lady commentator to talk about relationships. I have a few candidates in mind. Again, moving with COVID, I might be able to do another live split screen, or maybe get her to come by and pop a squat and drink. But I want to do some, not necessarily battle of the sexes, but just talk about the differences between how men and women perceive things and relationship goals, stuff like that. So more to follow on that. We'll see what happens. But at any rate, in the meantime, we can laugh at other people's dysfunctional relationships. So Summer Walker recently announced that she was pregnant, which everybody had pegged at a few months ago, evidently, because of her pudge, but she said she had gas. And of course, it's London on the track baby, and they've been, from what I understand, just in and out of the relationship. One minute he's the greatest thing ever, next minute he's abusive, and she was just using him for his production skills so she can get an album. But anyway, she's pregnant by this dude. Evidently, London has been a deadbeat father to his other child. I'm assuming he only has one. And she knew that from jump. So what does she do in her infinite wisdom? Well, just like her novel approaches to bathing, she let this motherfucker shoot her club up. So now she's pregnant with his kid. And the baby not even here yet, and she already calling him out for being a shitbag father. Why would you let him nut in you? You already got your 2 albums, sis. Like, what? I don't know. But then again, I do know, because condoms suck. So that's probably what it came down to. But I don't know. And going into more spicy nonsense. So I'm gonna preface this the way I do because, one, we're actually going to do a step through of the video. But the one that I'm not going to do a step through, there was a video that went viral out of Houston, I believe, of a brunch spot where it was a brunch establishment that catered to African Americans. And for those of you who don't know about the black brunch scene, and maybe I'm a little biased because I'm from Maryland and immediately outside DC, so I understand how the DMV brunch scene basically changed it. Brunch used to go from, like, you know, country clubs and bougie white people in hotel lobbies to a whole Sunday fun day in DC. Like, the DC day party is unfuckwittable outside of anywhere other than, like, Miami, and even Miami is because the beach and it's Miami. But DC will day party you to death in the summer, okay? And, like, the day parties be more lit than the night parties. And by proxy, brunches. And brunches have become a thing where it went from, like, fancy black women with jobs who spend money like drug dealers at brunch, like hundreds of dollars, but they will be at brunch for 6, 7, 8 hours, and bottomless mimosas. That's like a staple of all the dope brunch spots in DC. Bottomless mimosas, and chicks be in there living their best life, and they're playing music and twerking. It just happens at brunch spot. That's why we go to our brunch establishments, because if we just want the food, we'll go somewhere else that doesn't even play music, or if they do, they play that chill background music. But you're playing our contemporary hits in there for them to twerk. And it's oftentimes these brunches happen at places where that's the day function of the night spot. So it started out as a crunk brunch, and then it just rolls into the club. And maybe you're drunk already and you stay here and you pay more money. That's just how it rolls in DC. So I'm not surprised that other places will try to replicate this, like Atlanta and Houston, DC South, in the Southwest, But this guy was upset because in his estimation that people were disrespecting his restaurant, not only the ambiance he was trying to create, but they were up on his furniture with their heels poking holes in it, which I understand. You pay money in your property, and that's why at clubs they got bouncers to knock people off those steps, off the chairs, because people will come and sit down and put their feet on it like they got no home training. I smooth get that. But he literally went on a whole diatribe about how he don't need their money. He didn't create this for them to come twerk. And my thing is, first of all, fam, you can control this. They can't twerk to slow jams. You can still play our music that caters to black people, but to a mellower mood where they're not going to twerk. Secondly, they came here to have fun. That's why they're drinking these mimosas and getting buzzed. So if you don't want them to twerk, control the music, and they can choose if they want to keep coming here or not. The optic of you telling your own people that you don't need their money, this, that, and the third, is trash. But at the same time, I'm not going to call you for you to be canceled, because you have the right to protect your property and establish what kind of crowd you want at your restaurant. And when we've seen motherfuckers still go back to these Korean stores who beat black women and still give them their money, when we've seen them go back to Gucci and all these who had black men arrested for shopping in there because they couldn't possibly afford it, yeah, no, I'm not going to tell y'all to go boycott a black-owned business. I will say that this dude, evidently this is his second restaurant, and he's currently in a lawsuit, or embattled in a lawsuit with his other partner, or his old partner at his other restaurant, for some tip there. So for them to have another party, maybe he was stressed out about that, who knows, but it seems that there's always an issue going on with this dude. But at the end of the day, like, a man, I go to brunch. If I go to brunch just because I want to see the baddies throwing it, and they're in their little fancy dresses while they're mimosa drunk, maybe I can pull something, get behind something cute. That's why I went here, because I'm not really a bruncher. Like, when I was coming up, and there's no disrespect, but brunch was mostly for the gays and the women to go do whatever it is that they do. But now it's a whole thing. Like, niggas have caught on. The baddies be at brunch. Niggas be up in there in their Chelsea boots, their brunch boots, to pull up on the shorties. If you have the woman, we will come. I'm not really a brunch dude because I don't like spending money like that. But then, too, it's fun. It's a change up for me. I will go. And then that's only because I'm in this area. So I imagine it's very dependent on the population of blacks in the city, of how lit it is. But I think Jamel Hill even set it up. Clearly, you've never been. She specifically said DC brunch for 8 hours. That's literally how that happens. That's happened plenty of times to me. So, and then it's of note that he's a Kappa, which I found out later, because there's another Kappa who had the internet in a tizzy, just as that whole brunch situation went away, and we're actually going to step through this. Now, what this was, I wasn't familiar with this guy prior to it, but evidently he has a YouTube channel with over 100,000 subscribers, where people either call in, he does live shows, where he gives them advice on things, I'm assuming from dating to other things. He looks like an older gentleman. His name is Kevin Samuels. And I'm not going to play the whole thing because it was a 2-hour live that he did, but thanks to the good folks at World Star Hip Hop, I have noted that there's about a 7.5-minute clip where he's specifically speaking to a Miss Jessica Gardner, I believe that's her name, at least according to his Zoom screen right here, where the conversation centered around how she hasn't been able to have much success in her dating life, and she wants his advice because she called him because evidently she's a frequent listener to his show, and she likes his advice and figures that he can help her. At least that's how she presented herself. We're going to see, and I'm going to pause it as it goes on, so that you can see how this wasn't really an ingenuous attempt on her part, at least in my estimation. And because a lot of people are killing this dude for calling him disrespectful, and then of course killing black men. Why are y'all laughing at this man? Why are y'all not canceling? Why you let him tear down his sister like this? Blah, 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 blah. And in my opinion, that's just not what happened at all. At all. It's just that oftentimes the truth hurts, and certain people call in hoping to have their ego accounted for, which is a little dollop of truth from people who know nothing else but to not hold cut cards. And of course, when it's on a platform with a bunch of people to watch, when this is best served in your therapy session with a therapist, yeah, but you called in and asked for this because you knew what you were going to get. So we're going to go through this video now, and yeah, so let me make sure that the volume is up so you guys can hear it. And YouTube, if you're lucky and I can figure out how, because I know how to do picture-in-picture, but I haven't quite figured out how to do the video-in-picture, which I don't know if I want to do right now because this is going to be a live reaction. But we'll see. If not, then you'll hear the audio, and you can go to his, like I said his name. You guys can go find him if you want to watch the whole 2 hour or the clip of what's going on. All right, so let's get it started.
I honestly want a six-figure guy, is what I'm realizing.
And ma'am, and that's my point. You ladies all feel like, listen, you ladies all feel like you're the exception to the rule. And then when someone like myself comes along and gives you a dose of reality, instead of just accepting it, it's like, yeah, but I'm special. You don't know any men on this level that are not your father, that aren't related to you. That means you don't know these men. You don't know where to go get them. You don't know what they want. But you're still saying, pick me. They don't want mid-30-year-old baby mamas.
All right, so let's pause it right there. So, like I said, this was a section that WorldStar chose, but when I was trying to get the whole thing, up to this point, she said that she was having a hard time finding men of her caliber, and that she had been entertaining men that don't quite meet her standards because what choices she had, but she is coming to him for hope, for him to help her get to the men that she wants. And she said that below her level is six figures because she makes six figures. So we're not going to say that she's like, somebody out here just trying to get saved. She is a relatively, depending on your definition of success, but she is a business owner. She has a six-figure income, which can mean anywhere from $100,000 to $999,000, whatever. But she ain't hurting. And she has a child, a teenage son. But she's told this man that she has only been dating people below her because she can't even find these men that she wants, which is where he came. So I just wanted to preface that.
I'm trying to be polite, man, but they don't want those.
Can I ask you a question?
Did you hear what I said?
And I think this is where it went off the rail because it touched a nerve. Okay, so there's this whole argument. I won't say argument, but the whole meme battle between the battle of the sexes that's been going on the internet. Who's the prize? I'm the prize. What? And a lot of it was jokes, but a lot of it is, honest to God feelings getting hurt here. Now, I'm not going to say what is a prize, but we're talking about there's a difference between a prize and the prize. And the concept that women's value is intrinsically tied to their uterus, their ability to have babies, or their unburdened by children of other men is trash. Okay. You don't stop being a good woman just because you have a child, because a relationship didn't work out, or you know what I mean? Now, there are factors that could have led to you becoming a single mom, but that's nothing that should define the rest of your life, because you can grow. You're not defined by the worst parts of your life or the worst decisions. Is how you bounce from there. So this concept of women being relegated to damaged goods, or just by virtue of being somebody else's mother, that's not your child, is just fucking ridiculous. And because of that, and because ashy niggas have perpetuated that thing, it has caused women to hear, oh, she's a single mom? Yes, I am the prize. No, some single moms are a prize, and a damn good one. And then two, it depends on who you're talking to. Okay? And because they get to decide what prize they want, what race they're in. Okay? What they're looking for. But because he rebuffed her in saying that you are not what they are looking for, meaning the men that you want are looking for, you are not the prize. Not saying you aren't a prize, but you aren't the prize. To which she's about to do the same rebuttal that most women do when they hear something like that.
Yes.
Why is that so? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
From my point of view, I feel like I get what you're saying. They do have better options, but also those better options are younger girls. Those younger girls don't necessarily 20-year-olds are not necessarily attracted to 45-year-olds.
Bullshit. I'm 51 and I can't beat them off with a stick.
Let's stop right there. Y'all ladies need to stop this shit. Okay, on the one hand, every day y'all looking for a sponsor, sugar daddy, or me and somebody's son. Y'all in that beer group telling men, don't touch that gray in your beard. Y'all looking for an older zaddy because they know what they want. And on the next tip, when you're no longer that young woman looking for the sugar daddy or the older man, oh, why you want that young girl? You were just that same young girl. So which one is it? And then two, clearly older dudes be rocking with these young chicks. But then you say, oh, well, they just want sex or whatever. But we're not saying what they want long term, but that's clearly where they're going. But now because you no longer fit that demographic, your best figure days are behind you, or maybe they're not. Maybe you can still be a solid brick house woman who's older. And when I say older, I don't think 35 is old. I mean, it's old for me because my body's falling apart. But I don't think in the grand scheme of things that a woman is just dried up and used up at 35. But again, those guys are typically looking for the younger ones just because they're looking for fun at this point. You're assuming because you're on your level, you're ready to get married in 2 weeks, that they should just go ahead and be looking for the wife type. And because you have experience in that, allegedly, I'm assuming, I don't know her history with the father. She refused to answer. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, y'all gotta stop that. Stop playing the double type when you're at 1 minute. You don't got time for the younger dudes. Older men are more mature. They know what they want. And then when you're no longer in that young demographic where you can be young and shooting up for these cute or sexy zaddy salt and pepper older dudes, now that you are in their contemporary and they don't want you anymore, suddenly, why you want these young girls? Make up your mind.
That's another one you lies. No, younger women are attracted to older men. What are you talking about?
Oh, and they went into, of course, the women in the comments and even on my newsfeed on Facebook that I can do nothing but watch. Who is this man to be talking to her like that? He looked gay. He ugly himself. And, I'm not in the business of rating men, but, I mean, I remember y'all went crazy over that dude, the grandpa, Mr. Steal Your Grandma, who was posting up in them silk pajamas and shit like that because of his beard and everything. And then now some people think he's gay, or I don't know if he's a Kappa too, but this dude's a Kappa. He's got some mannerisms that can be construed as slightly sassy, but he also just might be a consummate pretty boy. I don't know. I'm not gonna feed into the trope about Kappa Alpha Psi and their close relationships. Pause. But yeah, all that's a defense mechanism. You don't want to assess what he's actually saying to her, so you're attacking him. Oh, he ain't even all that cute. He probably gay anyway. When we all know that if a man is paid enough and together and has something y'all will lie to y'all being women will lie to yourself about him being attractive and cute because his money is, because how he treats you makes him beautiful and da 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 da. Whereas men tend to be more visual creatures. Now that's not to say that men can't find value in you other than your attraction, or physical attractiveness, but we look at different things first and on a different value scale. All right.
So can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So do you feel like a woman like me?
Uh-huh. What would you rank yourself on a scale from 1 to 10? You cannot use 7.
This is important. Pay attention.
Would I rate myself?
Hold on. We're going to run that back. We're going to run that back.
Cannot use 7.
Listen to what he said.
So do you feel like a woman like me?
Uh-huh. What would you rank yourself on a scale from 1 to 10? You cannot use 7.
Okay, for those of you on YouTube, if I'm not going to get the video playing, but those of you who are watching this, if you watched, I want you to watch her face right when he said, what do you rank yourself 1 through 10 and you cannot use 7? Because she was immediately ready to respond. And then he said, you cannot use 7. And that's very, very, very important, which I'm going to get into after she gives her answer.
Would I rate myself?
Just your face.
My face, when I wake up, 5, but when I put myself together, 6.
Okay.
So what you also can't see is when she said that, her face was like, well, she was, I won't say stalling for an answer, but she's realizing because she was immediately, I promise you, I would bet my left night, she was going to hit him with a 7. And let me explain to you why. Okay. On a 1 to 10 scale on anything else, like if you go to the doctor and they say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your pain? 1 being the no pain, 10 being the worst pain you could ever do. You know, you're not immediately going to go to 7, you know, because 7 sounds good. You're going to objectively try and rate your pain. And a lot of people, it's hard to quantify because what is your idea of extreme pain? Like a gunshot wound, a stab wound? Like, well, who knows? All right, but what you're not trying to do is worrying about perception. You're trying to get an accurate number. But when people start asking about things that they hold dear, like their appearance or how happy they are in life or how solid their relationships are with people, and there's bias involved, that's where 7 starts taking on a specific role, because 5 is typically the average. You know, there's the mean, median, average, stuff like that. But 5 is right in the middle. If you look at it like pH, 7 is right in the middle. That's pH balance. Anything lower than 7 is acidic. Anything higher than 7 is basic. That's just what it is. Okay. So if you apply that to looks and attractiveness, 5 means you're not ugly, but you're not cute. Or especially ugly or especially cute. You're right in the middle. Okay. But in America, what are we taught that is average? A C, like you're going to school. 70%. 7 out of 10. Okay. And while nobody wants to actually be average, what that allows us to do is, because it's slightly above the bare minimum, which would be failing in school, but the bare minimum, so it allows you to feel good about yourself by rating yourself a 7 because you're above average. You don't think that you're just nondescript and unspecial, but it allows you to seem humble, that you're not claiming to be this fine person of an 8, because you can't argue with an 8 or a 9. An 8 or a 9 means, yes, I think I'm cute, I'm pretty, I'm fine, otherwise. So that's why he said, no, don't give me no 7. Give me the number. You either think you're cute, ugly, or meh. And then she couldn't even do that. She said, well, with my makeup, I'm a 6 because that's slightly above average, because 7 is gone now. Because I promise you she would have given him a 7. And then she would have said 6 without my makeup because that's above. She's positively tripped because she feels that she is the prize. I'm not here to argue with you whether or not she is a prize or she's entitled to feel like she has worth. I want the sister to feel like she has worth. She's a reasonably attractive woman, but beyond that, she's a business owner, she's a single mother. That's right there tells me that she is about a lot of things positive in life. So I don't want it to come off like I don't see her value and I don't know her from a can of paint, or just because of her physical attraction. Okay? But the reason why he's asking you that is because men typically go for the physically attractive women first. Now, and so meaning they might be dumb as a box of rocks, they might be gold diggers, they might be toxic, whatever, and he may appreciate someone who is not as physically attractive more, but the first look, the first attention goes to, that's just how men work. And a lot of women work like that too. It's just your standards of what qualifies as physical attraction are different. Back in the 80s, 90s, society told you that light-skinned niggas were naturally pretty, but we've seen ugly light-skinned niggas. Now it seems to be more preoccupied with height, where if the man is below 6 foot, suddenly he's not a man to you. So that's why he asked it. But a lot of people are internalizing it. Where does he get off talking about her looks when he ain't no looker? But I promise you, he got women. And all of y'all have seen ugliest sin dudes who questionable hygiene and all that. But when they got the bread, there's no shortage of baddies. No shortage. Let's continue.
And how tall are you?
5'5".
Dress size.
I'm sorry?
Your dress size.
A 3.
Okay. So that makes you, if you give yourself a 5, that's average.
Yes.
So.
See, nothing unkind. Average. He didn't call her ugly. He didn't call her homely. He said average. You are a normal woman. If he wanted to be rude, he could have said run of the mill. Plain Jane. He just said average. But because too many people are convinced themselves that they are this super prize that somebody needs to slay a dragon and climb a mountain to come get, that is an insult to many people. That's y'all damage though. Like, yeah.
Average looking women tend not to get high earning men. They tend to get average men.
So,
did you, I mean, stop right there. Stop right there. Stop right there, breathe and digest. You're 35 years old and you can look around and see the world. You don't tend to see higher earning men with average looking women. Off rip. If you do see them, they got their average looking woman when they were both really young and he built his way up. But a man earning the kind of money you're talking about does not go for an average looking woman.
And also, let's pause that. Because you remember how he started in the beginning, he said that you want these men that you want, but you're not around them. The only men you know like that are related to you. But you, even as a woman who should be in the space with men like that, you can't even find them to get around them. Well, that's the same thing. Another reason why rich dudes like pretty women, other than the fact that who doesn't like pretty women? Even women like pretty women. But pretty women end up where the money at. So to find someone who's not, you got to do a back and forward stroke through these pretty broads to go looking for somebody who's not, for the possibility of them also being a good person. So, yeah. and that's evidence just by what she said. She's not even around these dudes. So, yes, we can reduce it to, men being shallow. They don't want to go to where you weren't saying that when you were the hot one. But I digress. But at the same time, it's like, even if men did want that, these men who have the money are constantly surrounded by pretty women, 8s and 9s. Physically, anyway, they could be vapid whores and dead inside. But that's just what it is.
I mean, my body is not average, so.
But ma'am, you please don't make me say it.
Say what?
She asked for it.
I really just wanted some advice. I love your.
I'm giving you advice, but you're not taking it.
So she says she wants advice, and that's why I wanted to play the other clip, but it was too long to try and sequence it. So she's acting like the way that this is framed. If you just look at the 7-minute and 25 segment on 7-minute 25-second segment on WorldStar, it seems like, man, I just called for advice, and he's giving her some tough love. No. What she actually did was she called in because he's having a segment about disagreements where people are supposed to call in and say that they disagreed with something he said, I'm assuming in the past show or earlier in the show. But that's how she even got on his Zoom in the first place. But when she got there, she said, no, I have a question for you. And he even said, this is the disagreement section. What are you talking about? And he goes, no, I want to ask you about how I can get a man, this and the third. She goes, what do you do? And he said, I'm a business owner. Oh, well, guess what? This is the guy. I'm a business owner too. And if you would like that kind of advice, I have a business for that. You can get an appointment and try. And she said, oh, I'm always asleep by the time you do it, or I'm never available. And I just saw you and I took my chance right here. And then he finally relented to giving her this section. So people are making it seem like he went out his way to humble her and everything. No, she co-opted this time, is then asking for what she swears she wants to hear, but it's not what she wants to hear because it's the truth and not catering to her ego. And now people are calling this man, harmful and detrimental to black women, anybody who agrees with what he said. It's an important context.
Yeah. The advice is, ma'am, you're average looking at best.
I'm taking it in, but.
Okay, but you're not accepting the fact that, okay. Average looking women, average looking woman who's older, average looking older woman with a 13-year-old son, average looking woman with a 13-year-old son with a sketchy baby daddy. This gets worse every time I say something. And now you're asking for a man who's in the top 10% of men. You don't qualify for one.
And this is always a problem when a man says this to a woman, but y'all will tell this to dudes who ain't 6'4". Y'all will tell this to dudes who don't have discretionary income to buy you whatever little stupid bag you want. Y'all will tell this to dudes who got kids, or I don't want to date. I've met single mothers who don't want to date men with kids, which from a logistical standpoint, I hear that because now y'all are both taking care of each other's kids, and obviously you guys weren't, or not want to say obviously, but perhaps you weren't able to, you're just getting by with your own kid. So I understand it, but from the hypocritical standpoint is you want a single man to jump at the chance to take care of your child, which at the same time, maybe You don't need him financially to do it. But any man who is a man, if you're going to date a woman with a child with any sort of intention, you have to look at it as, I'm going to be in this kid's life. Do I want to deal with this? Do I want to have the responsibility of setting a positive male role model to him? Or maybe this motherfucker got silver cap teeth, and do I want to have to deal with trying to not strangle this kid? That's what a man thinks about when he's thinking past his dick and whether or not he wants to fuck you and eat that kid's snacks or not. Okay? So, but y'all don't want to hear that. Y'all trying to make it, oh, you're saying that women are worthless once they have kids or if they make a mistake in life, no matter what she does to better herself. That's not what he said. That's what y'all are hearing because you may be in this boat or somebody else said that to you and this sounds like that. That's not the case.
And you're making, I mean, I don't want to have to go there, but when you put in all these other factors, why can't you just get a man that's an average guy?
Sometimes I feel like in order to fully submit, I have to feel like he's in.
Well, then you're gonna die alone. How about that?
There we go back to that submit shit. Because now y'all were saying, well, if a man leaves, I will submit naturally. Which I fully admit. Like, I get, anytime I hear a man talking about women won't submit to him, that tells me that you shouldn't be submitted to. Flat out. Because game recognized game, for lack of a better phrase. And it's like, if you exude leadership, if you exude yourself as somebody that can be trusted with someone's followership, meaning that not only did they trust you not to do dumb shit like lie and cheat on them, but that you put their interests, their well-being as a priority of yours, and that of if they have a child or whatever it is that you want to grow, and no decisions for growth will be made without considering my mutual growth, a woman will follow you. Just like you niggas will go play Modern Warfare and follow a nigga who is on the kill streak rewards and didn't ask, you don't know him from a can of paint. It's the same shit. Leaders lead by virtue of being leaders, not just because, okay, I'm the leader, are you going to follow me? No. We're sight unseen. But on the flip side of that, women have it in their mind that no, he's not capable of being a leader unless he's doing better than me in a station above me. So that's what that's what this guy's trying to convey to her. You want a guy that's, what you require to submit to somebody is not somebody whether or not they deserve your submission, but on paper automatically commands your submission because they can do better than you. But they shouldn't want to do better than you because you're you. And here we are. Now, he did say she's going to die alone. She keeps this shit up, she might.
Let me just cut to the chase, ma'am. You can feel like what you want to, but women like you die alone. Straight up. Because you think you're better than the men that you qualify for. And the only reason, honestly, ma'am, that I can see a woman like yourself really thinking you deserve more is because you earn more money than most people around you in North Carolina.
Facts.
But if your ass worked at the post office, you would not think so highly of your opportunities. And that's the reality. Men don't care about your money.
Liquid
not the kind of men that you want. We don't care about your money. It ain't ours. We care about the fact that you are older and you got kids. And you're average.
Now, I will say this. This is hard to watch because there is a Zoom and her feelings are hurt. And I've hurt plenty of people's feelings. People can say it's intentional or not, but I'm not a bully. So I empathize that this is a tough lesson to learn, let alone on a Zoom call with, let me see. No, it doesn't display how many people were watching this. But even if people weren't watching this right then and there, this shit has gone viral. So, yes, this would have been better off in a therapy session or in a private session with him, which he tried to get her to do, but she insisted on this. So, I do empathize with her, not because I think she needs to be pitied. Like I said, I do think she can make someone again, I don't know her from a can of paint, so she could be a psychopath. But assuming she's a normal, well-adjusted person, this is a quality woman. She has her own. She's taking care of a child on her own. She is ready for love. I don't think that this woman is worthless in the least. And I don't even knock her for having a dream or goal of getting a man that has been characterized as above her station, because it does happen. But you got to go make it happen. You got to go be around these dudes. You got to show them, let them get tired of dealing with them other chicks that were just, eye candy, and just present and hope that one of them realizes that they have something right in front of them. That's the only way that this is going to happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. Because like he said, men don't give a shit about your money. The ones who do are the ones who fuck you during tax season and then leave and take your refund or ruin your life and your credit and drive but those are not the dudes you want. So a dude with his own money is not going to care about your money. Just like you women swear that when you have your own, I don't care about your money. I'm not a gold digger. But every woman with her own money likes to spend another nigga's money because that means she gets to keep her money. This is what it is.
And your reality of your life has showed you that. You don't have the kind of men that you want knocking on your door trying to find you. See, what we've done in this country, this world, is we've told women like yourself that you can have it all, and you got a Prince Charming who's 6 feet tall, 6-figure income, jawline, all this other kind of stuff. And I'm sorry, man. No. Most people get average people, especially average people. And you're an average person. I mean, let's be real. You're not running Microsoft. You got a pet grooming business.
And even if she was, dude, like, and I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but Oprah Winfrey is a whale in terms of her bank. Okay? But you don't hear, and I mean, you can believe that this whole Stedman thing is a real relationship, whatever, but you don't hear men lusting after her or beating down her door. And she's Oprah Winfrey. Now, are there plenty of men that would tag that? Yeah. But they're doing it trying to get a check. Or, they're not doing it because they want to go brag on, I'm tagging Oprah Winfrey, or I even want Oprah Winfrey. And again, those are the type, there's a certain type of man that will do that. And it's not anybody that Oprah Winfrey would want to spend her time with. And that's Oprah. So this can come off as diminutive. Oh, you're not running Microsoft. You have a pet grooming. She might be the best pet groomer wherever. It might be. There's a lot of money in good pet grooming. And again, if she can support herself, 6 figures off of that's more than just being talented with some scissors. Like, she is a talented woman. Props to her. I don't think she's worthless or anything like that. He's just putting it into perspective is that what the men that she's are looking for. If I want to go catch a bass fish, but I go out there and instead of worms or a minnow on my hook, I put a corn pop, I'm not going to catch any black fish, even though corn pops are a staple of a balanced break or whatever the fuck that commercial goes. You get what I'm saying? Yeah.
You've been making 6 figures for the last 3 years. Okay. But if I'm looking at you, if I looked at you and I took all that off of you, all the eyelashes and all the hair, what do you look like under there?
I mean, I look the same.
I think that's kind of toxic. I get on the one hand because I'm not one of those dudes who tells women how to be women or tries to tell, because one, it's not our place to do it, and two, I like women to be comfortable and enjoy themselves and feel. And if weave does it, if makeup does it, as long as you look good, and more importantly, I don't have to pay for this shit. Well, not more importantly, but just as importantly, I'm fine with that. I don't mind sisters with natural froze, short hair, faded up better than mine, or the bundles from Malaysia, wherever the hell they get them from. As long as you look good, you smell good, you are, because it affects your confidence. Like that, there's nothing sexier to me than a confident woman. And do you, okay? Now, I guess from a standpoint, if you're worried about what your kids are gonna look like, I can see that being a valid, even though still physical, shallow thing. But you want to know who you're going to breed with, number one. Or if the transformation is not from a 5 to a 6, the way she said, before my makeup, I'm a 5, and then with my makeup, I'm a 6. If it's more of like, I don't know if y'all ever watched Thundercats, but there's a character called Mum Ra. He's a mummy. And he would go, ancient spirits of evil, transform this decayed form to Mum Ra. Yeah, YouTube, I went there. Look it up, Thundercats, great show. And it's a drastic from a withered stalk to this bad. We've all seen the makeup transformations on Instagram, Facebook, where it's like disguise level makeup. Then yeah, and then two, which is not a minimal factor, but it might be overlooked for anybody who's not a man. Y'all be messing up our shirts and our sheets and our pillowcases with all that makeup sometimes. So I can see that being a concern for men, but for it to be something used to diminish the value of a woman, I'm not here for that. So I don't think that's what he's doing here, but I can see how this gets perceived as that, and you wouldn't be off base.
No, you don't. Because if you did, you wouldn't have all that on.
I'm sorry?
No, you don't. You don't look the same because if you did, you wouldn't have all that on.
So what is your advice for women that...
All right, I'll tell you my advice, man, because you're not listening to me. This is why I always recommend you need therapy. Because you seem like a sweet woman, but you're not getting it.
You're being so mean.
I'm not being. Don't tell me I'm being mean.
Oh, damn! He said
I'm about to be mean. I get tired of you broads telling me I'm being mean because you cannot handle the goddamn truth. You called my show on a day that you ain't even supposed to be here, and I honored the call and sat here and tried to help you. And I'm telling me I'm being mean. Get the fuck out of my phone. I'm tired of y'all doing this shit.
Yeah, he got fed up. And I get it, because he probably, and I'm the same way. I get called a freaking misogynist or a woman hater or all kinds of shit when I would literally lay down my life for any sister, even ones that I can't stand, that I have history with. But if somebody was attacking you like a racist or some kind of abuser, I would rather go to my grave knowing that, damn, I went out over somebody I don't even like than that happened to you in front of me. Because I don't like you. That's the sum of the man I am. So I understand his frustration on that level, because I get called a misogynist by women that they know me in real life, but they're doing it for a Facebook point to get a like or whatever, because they don't like the point I'm making. So yeah, he hung up on her. But at the same time, it's like, come on now, like, he was not being mean. You went out of your way to ask him for it. He even did it for you, and then now because you don't like it. And you clearly knew where he was on because you've been a follower of his show. But when he's real with you, which he normally charges for, but he did this for free. Yeah, I understand why he's upset. Now, for those of you who just think that he's a woman hater or that he don't keep that same energy, there is a clip, which I had queued up, but Facebook is tripping. Where'd it go? Here we go. Of him doing the same shit to a man, and you're gonna know right off rip of how he rolls, because he don't waste time. And here we are now.
You have a big,
huh?
You have a big dick.
I mean, it's above average. I ain't no Ron Jeremy.
No. I asked you if you had a big dick. I didn't say it was above average.
I don't know what that is, really.
Nigga, you know if you got a big dick or not. Stop the bullshit. Every dude know whether or not he got a big dick. I know I got a big dick. You don't know?
I mean,
you don't have a big dick. That's the point. You don't have a big dick. You don't have a big wallet. You're a fat dude. And you got a lot of nerve thinking you should get choosing somebody 5'10" and 300 pounds making less than $1,000 a month at 20 years old. And women should approach you. What they get, they don't even get a big dick.
Oh, and if you don't think that cut to that man's soul like ether, come on now. This man keeps it real. Is it caustic? Is it tactless? That's for you to decide. But these people come and ask him for that. They clearly find value in it. So don't call this man what he is. Now, I saw the homie Bridge. He's a Kappa. Apologize on behalf of the non-sassy noobs, because again, this dude is a Kappa, and so is the brunch dude who was getting quite picante, sassing and lecturing the sisters about dancing in his restaurant, and this one. So he says that he's assured his Facebook following that the Kappas will be back to the ladies' favorite fraternal organization in time for J15, but whatever. That's bunny business. I don't care. The point is, people are allergic to the truth, to reality, and accountability. And when they get it, even though they went out of their way to ask for it, somehow that becomes a personal attack on them rather than dealing with the facts of what's going on right now. That's a deflectionary tactic. That's not controlling your outlook, your prospects, and your experience in life. And I encourage everyone to confront the truth, reconcile the truth, but don't turn it into something it's not. And it's easier said than done. I'm not going to say that I'm immune to it, but I am my own worst critic. If you are your own worst, that doesn't mean be self-deprecating for the sake of it. That means being honest with yourself. If you are your own worst critic, nobody can say shit to you that you haven't already said to yourself. But there's responsibility in that, because that's a slippery slope. You can eventually be too good of a critic and not find the good in you, or not be able to say, wow, I'm deficient here, but I have outlined a way to move forward and get here so that this is something less that's on my list. If you're going to be critical of yourself, be a good critic, a productive critic, a constructive critic, and give yourself something to work for. Not for the sake of just being depressed and ending it all, because I'm not telling you to do that. A lot of people say things to me, and then, on the internet, maybe you don't hear my voice. Well, obviously you don't hear my voice, but you know how you would react to somebody saying what you said to me, to you. So I have to be angry. I don't. The last time I got angry on the internet was my coon-ass uncle, because he should have known better, and he's family, and I'll beat his ass. Still, Jermon, if you listen to this shit. But, yeah, I don't get mad on the internet, because there's nothing you're going to say to me that I don't say to myself that I haven't already said to myself, if it's valid. And if it's not, who the fuck are you? And that's how I control my experience day in, day out. I hope this was a good pod for you guys. I really wasn't trying to, drag it, even though it's been 2 weeks. Try to get quality content versus the quantity of content. But until next week, again, man, you guys need to hit me up. I'm in Facebook jail, so hit me up at Dependence Mightier with a Z on Twitter. AskAEps@gmail.com. You can still hit me on the Facebook Messenger if you have my Facebook, but in the comments, man, on YouTube, hit me up. This show is nothing without you all. Shout out to my, I don't want to say ever expanding, but definitely diversified base. Let me see. Let me pull up the anchor so y'all can see who's here. Let me see. Audience. I have 10 unique listeners in the last 7 days. I've earned $1.24 out of all these. Where is my demographic? Here it is. So I've got 99% of my listenership from the United States. I got a listener in Ireland, a listener in Nigeria, a listener in Germany, and now the UK. Okay, and most of my people listening are Apple, so I guess I should stop shit talking Apple products and Spotify. So again, thank you all for pulling up, supporting me. I hope I'm giving you what you need, and if not, you got to tell me, man, because I'm not psychic. But other than that, please be safe out here in the streets. Cherish those who are close to you. Again, even though it was 2 weeks ago, if you, and the funeral has been already, if you can find it in your heart to go find the GoFundMe for my friend Tiffany, any considerations for her husband and her daughter Hannah would be greatly appreciated. But until next time, y'all take it easy.